Okay, we are in Siman Shin Tzadik Beis, Sif Beis. Ir Shel Rabin, Sheish Lo Pesach Echad, V'Sulam B'Makam Echad. So we saw before, you saw yesterday, the halachas of making an eruv for an entire city. And the thing that we came up with was that if it was founded by a single individual, or if there is only one entrance to the city, so then everybody kind of grows up, everybody is used to having a single eruv for the whole city. In fact, I just was reminded to tell this story that when Ramat Beit Shemesh Aleph was founded, the very, very early days, 25 years ago, there was an announcement made to the residents that there is no eruv up. You can't carry in the streets. And it was a complete shock to the Israeli residents who, had grew up in Israel. Every place that they had lived always had been an eruv. And the idea of not being able to carry outside on Shabbos was foreign. And it was a serious problem. There was a machan, and there was something that had to be overcome in people's mentalities. Well, what do you mean I can't carry outside on Shabbos? So the idea of you have to make, when you're making an eruv for the whole city where everyone got started out, that there is only one owner to the city, or there is only one entrance to the city, so everybody gets used to there being an eruv. You have to leave over an area of the city where there is no eruv, so that you don't lose the Torah of there's parts of the city that you're not allowed to carry in because there's no eruv. Otherwise, people don't know about there being the concept of Rosh Hashanah that you're not allowed to carry in, and we see it b'chush.
So within the walled city, there has to be a space.
So no, wait. So we saw yesterday that it ends up that there's two general rules for when you do a whole city at a time, and when you have to worry about leaving over a space. One is if it was founded by, or if it's owned by an individual, it started out as a yachid, or if there's only one entrance to the entire city. Everybody uses that one entrance. So now we're expanding that and we're saying, well, what happens if there are two entrances? Let's see. Ir shel Rabin sheish lo pesach echad, right? So it's not an Ir shel yachid. So it's the other one. It's an Ir shel Rabin, but there's only one entrance to the city. But wait, sheish lo pesach echad, v'sulam b'makam acher. There is only one entrance, but there actually is kind of another entrance if you use ladders. Right? There's another entrance into the city from a different place that has a ladder to get in. So then you can do the whole city at once. You don't have to leave something over. Because then the ladder that's leaning up against the wall doesn't count as two entrances. Even though we said that a ladder can allow two different chatzeros to join, but that's not going to be considered an entrance to the city. If you have a whole row of sulamos that you would think that maybe that allows that could be considered another entrance to the city, even if it's 10 amos wide, it's still not considered another entrance into the city. Similarly, if there's two entrances into the city, but one of them has a public dump, and in those days, public dumps were not cleared away generally, not generally cleared away. And so there's a dump in front of one of the entrances. Kilu ein shel mela pesach echad. So that second entrance doesn't count. It's as if there's only one entrance. And again, it's considered as a city of where everyone can make one eruv altogether. Gimel.
If it's shel Rabin and has coops of it,
yeah.
Then it's a shir.
Yes. Did I say it the other way? I'm sorry. If it's a city of one person, or if there's only one entrance, then you don't need to leave anything over, I believe. Wait, what did we say? Yeah, in a city, Sharab and Bokambo, then you need to have a shir.
So in a walled city,
yes,
that's the whole city.
Yeah.
Within the city, you need to have a shir. There's two gates to the city.
If it's two gates and it's Shel Rabin, then you do need a shear. Then you need a shear.
For instance, there's a shear.
Yeah, I was told by Rabbi Yosef that this is a concern that that people that make an error in modern days, that it's a serious concern, and they do a shear. I don't know. I don't know where the shear is in this neighborhood. I don't know where it is. Okay, we're up to Sif Gimel. Shin Sadik Bey, Sif Gimel. Habatim Shemnichim Osam Shir, the houses that are left over to be the shear, and this could be the answer to your question. Habatim Shemnichim Osam Shir, the houses that are left over to not be part of the city Erev, even though those houses do not open up into the rest of the city, that's still okay. El Acharehem La'ir Ifnam L'chutz, only the back of the homes, and there is no back entrance. The backs of the houses are to the city, and the fronts of and the fronts of those houses that are the ones that are left over open up to outside of the city. It still works. There's still an area within what's considered the city limits regarding Erev, where you're not allowed to carry, even though you never would. You have no way of getting to them. The afilu hu rak bayis echad, afilu beis habakar or beis hateven, even if it's a stable, a farmhouse where you just a silo, she'enam tzichim la'arev, where these would be things that wouldn't even need an erev anyway. Osam shir ma'arvan esashar. You can still make them to be the thing that's left over, and do an erev on the entire rest of the city. Sif Dalet. Ir shenishtatfu kol yisrael chutz mimavoy echad. Now you need an introduction to the Sif. It's a little confusing. We switched back to an Ir Shel Yachid. And so Ir Shenishashvu Kol Yisrael Chutz Mimavoy Echad. So now if you're going with we're going to do the entire city at a time, so then if you leave over an area that's not included, then that's gonna aser on the entire Erev. Just like if you have a chutzner where 9 of the people made an Erev, or contributed towards the Erev, and one person didn't, so then he ruins it for all of them, right? So if you're going with the entire city at a time, you're doing an entire city you're doing an Erev from the entire city at a time, and you can do that when it's an Ir Shel Yachid, and you leave something out, so then that would ruin it, one mavui out, so then that would ruin it for the whole city. Unless you go the route of we're doing an Erev for each individual mavui one at a time. So those are the two paths that are in front of you. But you chose the path of I'm going to do an Erev for the entire city, so that there's one mavui that's not included, so then that would ruin it for everybody, unless you mark it off. So that's what we're going to see. A city that everybody made a citywide Erev altogether, but one mavui wasn't included in that. We're not mishtatef. Hareza osar al kulam. So then that ruins it for the whole city. Then banu matseva al pesach hamavoy. But if they built a signpost, a matseva, some way of recognizing that. And the Mishnah Berurah quotes as to whether 4 tefachim high for such a matzeva is enough. It doesn't need to be 4 tefachim wide. But there's this matzeva kind of recognition that this mavo is not included. So then that would not aser on them, on everybody else. Lefichach ir shahaisa kinyan yachid. A city which was, and here we know that that's the case that we're talking about, the city that was owned by a single individual originally, even if it later became owned by a lot of people, you cannot make an Erev on just half of the city. You can either do the whole city at a time, or you do each individual mavoi. And if a mavi wants to break off from the rest of the city, then they'd have to make a mavoi at the entrance. They'd have to make a matzeva at the entrance of the mavoi to symbolize that they're a separate rishus. In order to not ruin it for all of the city residents. I don't know in modern times how we do that. I don't know if we do this matzeva. I've never heard of it. Yes?
What's the physical structure around this area?
It's completely enclosed. And,
It
it has a real wall around it. Yeah.
But if you put up something that you can physically, if you have physical barrier, or physical sort of whatever it is, then you could split.
I'm not familiar enough to tell you to answer that. Hey, when is it true that you cannot make, you can't do half of the city at a time to do shitufei mavos or to make this erev shel ir? Where it's encircled by a real wall of 10 tfachim high. And there are doors to the city. But if the city did not have mechitzas all around it, and now you only want to be machshir half of the city, and to make an erev on that half, then you're allowed to do it. That was your question. Yeah, okay. Vav. That which we said that you cannot make an erev for just half of the city. And again, we're talking about a city that is completely encircled. So we're going to see. That's just to say that a lechi or a kara cannot be good enough to separate one from the other. But if you have an actual wall, a section of wall that's 4 tfachim wide, or if you symbolize the separation of one of the mavois by 2 mashahu strips on either side of the entrance to the mavoi, then that does count as a separation, and they can make an erev for one half of the city versus the other half. And again, these are all things that we've seen before. If a mavoi is wider than 10 amas, so then neither of these would work. Then you need a Turas Pesach to make it look like as a separate entity. Once it's more than 10 amas wide. Or you can also make a mechitza in the middle. Again, we've seen this also before. If you have the entrance to a mavoi and it's wider than 10 amos, so then you can limit the entrance by building a wall in the middle, but it has to be a wall of a standard width so that it counts as a wall, and then that would split the entrance to the mavoi into 2 separate mavos. That would be another way to deal with something wider than 10 amas wide. There are those that say, there's a Yesh Om that says that it's an ir shalechad and you want to separate it and to make 2 eruvin. Hainu la'arka, that's if you wanted to separate it out along the length. And what does it mean, the length of the city? This is where Rosh Hashanah runs through the middle of the city. So you're looking at it and there's the Rosh Hashanah is right in front of you. You wanted to separate it out to the right and to the left, where the Rosh Hashanah is running down the middle. That would be something that you can't do. Why? Because both halves would need to use that Rosh Hashanah to get in or out of the city. But if you had such a Rosh Hashanah running down the middle and you had the right and the left, but you didn't want to make the erev separated along the right and the left, but rather front and back, the Eliotzim b'shar zeh, the Eliotzim b'shar zeh, and those on this erev would use the entrance that cuts through it, and the other half of the city would use the entrance that appears in it. And nobody would need to walk through the other one's erev. Then you could make an erev l'chatzan. Does this make sense? Should I use cardinal points? No, we got it. And then you could make some kind of tikkun, Tzuras Pesach or a lechi and a kara, all those. That if the Rosh Hashanah that cuts through it, that if the mavo that runs through it is up to 10 amas wide, then you can make a separation between the 2 eruvin through Lechi or Kara, Uviyasmanasara, Tzirasa Pesach. And if the Mavoi that you want to split into two, or that's going to be separated from one of the Eruvin of the city to the other, you can mark out if it's wider than 10 amos with the Tzirasa Pesach.
So you have this Shulchan Aruch is now being split in half, and each half is using a different gate. Right?
So I don't know that you're making. I don't know that you're making a.
The borderline.
I don't know that you're making a. I don't know that the Erev goes over the Rishus Harabim. That wasn't said. Okay, I don't know what the laws are of an Erev crossing over Rishus Harabim. I think there are those that say that it can't. Right. Right. Yeah. So I don't even think we're getting into that. I think what we're getting into is the fact that there are two halves of the city separated by the Rishus Harabim. And then you want to separate out. Well, no, we said that wouldn't work. That's the thing that you can't do. But on the half, let's use some cardinal points, right? So the Rishus Harabim runs north-south, right, through the city. So if you wanted to have the east half of the city and the west half of the city, which are on either side of the Rishus Harabim, be separate Eruvin, so we said that you can't do that. That's what you can't do. But instead, there still is an east and a west side of the city that's separated by this north-south running Rishus Harabim. And now you want to split up. You want to make two Eruvin between north and south, right? So so now the Rishus Harabim would be running through the north half, and the Rishus Harabim running through the south half, running through of the Erev. Yeah. So I don't know what happens over the Rishus Harabim. But certainly there's maybe there's two Tzuras HaPesachs, one on the east side, one on the west side, right? But we're still splitting up the city into two halves, into north and south. Exactly. Now, does the Erev cross over the Rishus Harabim? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think we never said that it does.
It must.
No, you can make two separate Eruvim on the north side, on the east side, between north and south on the east side, and another Erev between the north and south on the west side.
And this is a mukaf.
Yeah, the whole thing is still mukaf choma. Yes. Okay. Zion. Ir shel rabim in ismat of amda al chamishim diorim. If it was an ir shel rabim, initially or at any point. And so the rules of a city of a rabim would apply. But now there's fewer, through attrition, there's fewer than 50 residents. So, then you don't need to leave over a shir. It's no longer considered an ir shel rabim. More so, they even said that there's no chashash that it will become more than 50. Once it becomes less than 50, you don't have to worry. You can consider it as a small shtetl, as a moshav, and they can all make one citywide erev and not leave anything over. Ches. Hamazaka b'shitav l'chol b'nei ha'ir, which is something that we do. If someone does the erev on a box of matzahs for the whole residents of the city, and they may not even know about it, in erev kulam erev echad ein tzarich la'odiyam, and you made a single erev for the whole city, you don't even necessarily have to tell all the residents. Shezchusu lahem. You don't have to let them know beforehand, or it seems like even afterwards. Because this is a zechus, the zachan la'avim shelo b'fanav, and they own a part of it. They're being mishtatif even without their knowledge. V'din misha shachach v'lo nishtatef in b'nei ha'ir. Now we're finishing now the simon on a whole city making an erev, and if one person was not mishtatif in the erev for an entire city at a time. So somebody went to a different city, and someone comes in back in the middle, and somebody dies. All of the laws that we saw regarding Eruv Chetzeres, and then we extended it to Eruv to Shitufei Mevos. Or if there was a guy that you have to rent out the place of the guy, the same rules that apply to Chatzer and to Mavoy apply to making an erev for a city at a time. Shin Tzadif Gimel. Din Erev B'Yom Tov Shechol B'Erev Shabbos V'Din Bein Hashmashas L'Arev. Aleph. Ein Ma'arvin Eruv V'Chetzeres V'Shitufei Mevos B'Yom Tov. Boom. You can't make an Erev. You can't make Eruv V'Chetzeres Shitufei Mevos on Yom Tov. Shecholios B'Erev Shabbos, which falls out on Friday. V'im shachach lo erev me'erev Yom Tov. But if you forgot and you didn't make an erev on before Yom Tov on Thursday, the cholu shnei Yom Tov Yom HaChamish V'Yom HaShishi, and it's more complicated than that. And wait, so if it was just a single one-day Yom Tov on Friday and you didn't make one, you're stuck. But if you have a 2-day Yom Tov on Thursday and Friday, and you didn't make one on Wednesday, so then you have this trick that you can do. Ya'arav Yom Tov al T'nai. So then on Thursday you can make an Erev, a conditional Erev. Sheyomer im hayom chol, right? 2-day Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz. It's a suffix, right? Each day is a suffix. Well, we're not really sure which is, according to the calendar, which day is really Yom Tov. So there's a suffix in each day. So on Thursday you can say that if today is really Chol and really tomorrow is Yom Tov, Yehei Zeh Erev. So then I'm making an Erev now. Vim Hayom Kodesh. But if today is the actual day that is Yom Tov, that's the day that's Kodesh, and the suffix is only Midurabanan, and Midvar Klum. So then what I'm about to say about making an Erev is just words. It's not really making an Erev. Ulamachar, and then the next day on Friday, Yomer Im Hayom Kodesh, if today is Kodesh, Harei Eravti Me'asmo. So then the Erev I did yesterday is valid, and then the words I'm saying now mean nothing. Then Hayom Chol, but if today is the actual day of Chol, Yehei Zeh Erev, so now I'm making the Erev now. V'hanimili b'shnei Yom Tovim Shagolius. That only works on a regular 2-day Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz. Al b'shnei Yom Tovim Shel Rosh Hashanah lo. But on the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, you cannot do this trick. T'chiyom Arichta Damya, because the Chacham set it up to be a Yom Arichta. So there is no real suffix, is today Yom Tov or not. It's all considered one long Yom Tov. So again, you're stuck. V'an l'kaman semen tov kuf chaf ches. Shin Tzaddik Gimel Sif Beis. Echad Eruvin Chatzeres V'echad Shitufim Mevos Me'arvin Osam Ben Hashmashas. You may make an Erev Chatzeres. You may make a Shitufim Mevos Ben Hashmashas. V'afilu im kvar kibul alav tosefes Shabbos. Even if you were already makabel Shabbos. V'esh osam im kibul alav tosefes Shabbos. But there's another opinion that says, no, if you're makabel Shabbos, then it's already too late, even if it is really Ben Hashmashas or if it's early Shabbos. It doesn't actually say. Let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says about Yud Aleph. Yeah, he says, according to the second Shita, even if you were Makabel Shabbos, even if it is Vada Yom, and you just were Makabel very early, it's not even Ben Hashmashas, it still wouldn't work according to that Yeshamah. Sif Gimel. Erev Lishnayim. One person was made a Shliach to make an Erev for 2 people. La'echad mi'be'od Yom. One of them he made the Erev while it was still Vadai Day, it was still Vadai Friday. V'nechal Erev Ben Hashmashas. And the Erev was eaten Ben Hashmashas. U'le'echad Erev Ben Hashmashas. And the other one, he made an Erev Ben Hashmashas, and it was eaten on Shabbos proper. Shneim Kono Erev. Both of their Eruvim are good. It works. Shela Osa Shenachal Eruva Ben Hashmashas, to the one whose Erev was made Ben Hashmashas on Choshim Osa Laila. We count Ben Hashmashas as night. And then he already had his Erev at the beginning of Shabbos. Ula Osa Shenach Eruva Ben Hashmashas, the one that made his Erev on Ben Hashmashas. So Choshim Osa Yom, so that we count Ben Hashmashas as Yom, and he made his Erev Mi'ba'od Yom, and again he had an Erev when Shabbos came in. Avalam Erev alav Ben Hashmashas, but if he made an Erev on Ben Hashmashas, v'nechal Eruva Ben Hashmashas, and was also eaten Ben Hashmashas, also then he didn't have one when Shabbos came in. No man of Shach. And we'll stop here.